Hello, and welcome to our third and final part of our seminar, Getting to Know 3D Experience. Now, like I've said previously, should you have any questions about the product or the services discussed in this presentation, please feel free to reach out at the contact information listed below at the bottom of your screen. Thank you, and enjoy the presentation.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. As to reiterate what was already said, thank you for coming out on a Friday, and especially the sun's out, which I know in Michigan right now is a really bad time to be stuck in an office with the sun out. We are recording this, if that's a problem with anybody, because later on we're going to try and put these together and share. So I do have an audio recording going right now, if that's okay with everyone. But what I'd like to talk about is a 3D Experience platform, and just kind of give a quick overview to this. As Mark said, my name is Scott Pokriefka. I do work for Dassault Systemes. I'm a solution consultant, and one of my primary functions is to work with partners like DI Square and help put on events such as this. So what is the 3D Experience platform? So there's several names that it's gone by, and thank you. The platform is what we're seeing is this digital transformation. Okay, throughout the product life cycle has been going through. We have this transformation that's going on with our consumers, within business, and within the products themselves. No longer are we just designing products to design products. Now we have to start thinking about what these products are how they're going to be used, or how they're going to be experienced. Okay, so as we go through, we're seeing more and more. If we look at things that are going on in the automotive space, with autonomous being a big deal. Actually, earlier this week at the LA Auto Show, it's a little near and dear to my heart. There was a reveal from a local company in the Detroit area called Rivian Automotive, who just did a worldwide premiere of their vehicle. And again, they're a local EV company down in Plymouth. It was very exciting. Business being frictionless. Now it's not just, we're not making just a product anymore. We have to allow the consumer to be able to interact with products differently than before. How many times do you see a commercial and they talk about, oh, there's an app for that product? Whoever thought they'd have to have an app for their stove? Okay, but you're sitting up in bed and say, I want to have a cake, so let me preheat my oven from my phone. Well, you can do that now. Okay, and as a part of that, everything always being connected. So this whole connected world with one another. Well, while we've done all these things of being connected, things haven't necessarily changed in the engineering design space. So what we typically see in the engineering design space are these silos, where we have CAD in one silo, CAE manufacturing, and the PDM or PLM in its own, in its own silo. They don't talk to each other. So as a part of that, we start losing time as we have to go back and forth in between in working with these different areas or these different people. So a big number here is most time what we see is non-value added tasks. Up to 30% of an engineer's time is spent on a non-value added task. What's a non-value added task? Well, maybe something as simple as tracing down what's the latest model we need to be working on, okay? Or what project they're associated with. Those type things that where they're not designing or they're not engineering the data. So what does the 3D Experience platform allow or help with? It's taking all of those and building a platform that has a common UI, a common modeler, input, output, all the data in one spot, okay? And as a part of that, then we have apps that sit on top of this platform that allow everything to work together and get rid of some of that non-working time, okay? So just a quick example of something of this. So if we had a regular file-based CAD situation here where we have our designer who's working on something and they need to go ahead and we're going to process this, we're going to do some CAE. So our designer here is going to go ahead and do their design, and they save their data into the PDM. And then they have to notify the pre-processing engineer, so something like Hypermesh, that, okay, you can work on that now. And then once they do then the analysis to kick off. So it's just checking in and out and going around. It's potentially a nightmare. I'm probably not telling you anything you don't already know. Okay? So what we say is when we have it on the platform, when we have this single repository, is where we can start working and everybody can see at one time, is we can take something similar to this design change that's from an electronic standpoint to what we say is a digital standpoint. And from that, because everybody has access directly into the platform, they have the ability and capability to work on the data as an on-needed basis. And what do we mean by that is, so here, because we have the same modeler going on, I can expose parameters as a designer inside of my design so that my analyst can then have the ability to go through and actually do multiple use case testing on a component. So we know that we can specify maybe some sort of a pocket depth or a wall thickness, and the analyst has the ability to let the software go through and study each one of those variants. So now I don't have to wait for the designer to go ahead and make the modification. We're going to let the platform do that for us. So we can do a pocket depth analysis, change a wall thickness, change a radius, and see what we actually have from our design and what can be our best design. So as a part of that, we now have the ability to compare between each one of those. So no longer am I stuck with, I do a design, I see an analysis, is it okay? Oh, I do another design. We do this cycle throughout the platform. Okay. So on each one of these, now then we come back and we can have an output against each one of these. And then again, depending on what our target goal was, were we going for a stiffness parameter? Were we going for a material removal parameter or a lightning parameter, something of that nature? Which one of those do actually fit to get into what we wanted to see on the screen? Or excuse me, we want to see from our product. Okay. 3DEXPERIENCE platform has been growing over the past 13 years. From the standpoint of these are the most recent acquisitions that Dassault Systemes has done for the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. And when we talk about a platform, so as we come through, when Dassault Systemes does a purchase of technology, we don't necessarily just buy the technology and it's an offshoot and it sits off to the side. We actually integrate that software into the platform. One in particular, Simpo here, this is a plastic injection simulation software that actually now is a part of the Simulia brand and as a part of, like, say, our mold tooling workbench or application set. We can actually do a designer level plastic injection simulation for that. Okay, but it's not third party. It's on the same data modeler. It's within the same interface of the platform. And so that's basically how each one of these products that have been purchased over the past, as again, 13 years, get integrated into the platform. So some of them, they become their own brand. So like Abacus comes in as a Simulia brand. RTT, they're actually down in Royal Oak, Michigan. That's what our 3D Excite brand. So basically, it's a company that you've never heard of, but you've seen a ton of their work. Basically, any GM commercial where you see the car driving, that's our stuff. That's 3D Excite doing that. Okay. The 3DEXPERIENCE platform is more than just CAD. So for years, everybody knows, I wanted to say they know Dassault Systems, they know CATIA. Okay, and obviously CATIA is one brand of the family Dassault Systemes. Well, now that there's more to this CAD. There's enterprise. We have business. So basically, sales and planning, manufacturing execution, other things than just designing the actual component, the back end pieces of that's going to drive where that component's going to be, how that component's going to be used. Okay. So how we do that is we say we have 4 layers or levels of digital transformation between that we're digitally connected, data-driven, model-based, and virtual and realistic. So if we talk about, for years, we have this whole electronic standpoint. We say electronic is kind of this static world, okay? And then we have what we say, we have a digitally connected world. So this one took me a little bit to wrap my head around at first. It's like electronic and digital, they're the same thing, aren't they? They're really not. If you take a step back, let's say 10 years ago, what was one of the neatest things about getting an electronic boarding pass to get on an airplane is you could check into your flight the night before and you could print off that PDF, or you'd have that PDF on your, they weren't even smartphones back then, but on your phone, okay? That was an electronic boarding pass. That was great, but it had no link to the actual airline. So you could go to the airport the next day and your plane could be at a different gate, but your piece of paper that you printed off, that electronic PDF, said you were at a different gate. Once we move into a digital, or being digitally connected, now you can actually get a notification on your smartphone that says, oh, look, your gate has changed, and you may sometimes know before they actually do the gate announcement for that. So that's the difference when we talk about being electronic versus being digitally connected. So in the past, we may have had storage directories where we're keeping all of our data, but that was all being static, and people were, if they put the data in there, what was the latest data? Whereas opposed, if we're digitally into the platform, we know we have the latest and greatest. So one quick example on this is it was a startup in China, and then they had subsidiaries in US, Germany, and UK, and they were using Teamcenter and CATIA V5. And for them to do a full body DMU review, it was taking about 3 hours to bring up that data with CATIA V5 and Teamcenter. So what we did is we went in with the platform, and they could do that exact same thing in roughly 15 minutes. Okay, how do we do this? Okay, well, it's that concept of being on the platform and having things like parallel loading and partial loading. Today, who has Netflix or Amazon Prime Video or something of that nature? Okay, so when you want to start one of those services, do you have to wait 2 hours for the movie to download? No, the movie streams to you, and you get the data as you start using it. Same type of concept here, is you're getting the data on demand. Okay. Now that we have all this data, so now we have this data driven. We need some apps, or we need some help to actually go through and start getting the information out of this. So now we need to be starting to pull from all these other areas. The platform has apps that allow us to start getting that data from these different areas and bringing them into your own personal dashboards that you can then reorient and set the data however you need to be looking at that data, as opposed to it being scattered all over the place. As a part of that, one of the systems that we have in place is the ability to take data or sort through data that isn't necessarily on the platform. It could be in folder structures. It could be in other PDM systems. It could be in ERP, and actually correlate that together to make a better decision. So as a part of that, one of the things we talk about is how many duplicate parts actually companies have in their systems today, whether it's a file system or a PDM. What we can do with our technology is we can actually go through and, based on the metadata of the geometry, so pull out who created it or not created it, make, buy, the company, but also start getting into information where we can actually do a 3D comparison of the geometry and go as far as take that and with hooks into something like an ERP. Well, what if we get this one component from one supplier and we get a better deal from that supplier? We can make that be the master component, and everybody should use that component to get a better deal against that. Okay. Being able to work through, and in the past, CAE and systems analysts were kind of left out until the end. So now what we're saying is we have our fit, form, and function between design and engineering into analysis to actually flow those as parallel tracks in the design platform. And so as those parallel tracks go, because we're all dealing with the same platform and everybody has access to the designs at any time, as long as they have access to it, they can actually work together more cohesively that way. Okay, so something as simple as, if in the past, if you needed to make some sort of a change, something as simple as changing 1 millimeter, what would that actually do if we weren't running those parallel tracks and be able to talk back and forth in between them? Okay, so some of these numbers, these are use cases that were done with other companies. For a reason I can't use their names, but it's just some of the things that we've been able to go through and see from other companies. One thing in particular is you may start seeing more, we talk about the digital twin. And so the idea or the concept behind this is we're never going to probably ever get away with having a physical prototype of something. But from the standpoint of a company like this, they build engines, big engines, pretty much the size of this room. Okay, they're not going to prototype something of that nature. So the concept of being able to have the digital twin and be able to do simulation and testing inside of the platform, and then marry that with what is in the real world, is a big deal. Okay, so all of this together is what makes up the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So our platform is divided into 12 main industries that we work through. And what we have is we have our compass here that drives everything that goes through. So we have the different quadrants of our compass, as well as we're an open system. So the ability for connectors into multiple CAD systems, NX, Inventor, Creo, CATIA V5, SolidWorks, ECAD, the Office products, all the way through into some other data connectors. So working with Smart Team or SharePoint, all these, or a lot of these, being available for on-premises, or we also have the Dassault Systemes cloud to access some of this. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you from a PowerPoint standpoint. Let me actually jump into some real stuff. Come on. Okay. So to start, I'm on my platform, and I'm logged in through just a simple web browser. So I'm just happen to be using Firefox. And what this is this is my dashboard that's presented to me. This dashboard is my dashboard. A company could push out a dashboard to their people, and I can make my own. So these are the things that are important to me. So I can have a project Gantt chart that say this is a project that I'm a part of, and so I want to be able to see what's happening within that project. Excuse me. I also have a view into just some documents that can be on the platform. So when we talk about documents that are up there, at the end of the day, the 3DEXPERIENCE platform is a document management system. Any electronic document I can store in the platform. So in this case, I have a PDF, I have an image, I have a text file, and I have some Word documents, okay, that I have just sitting in here. I also have a 3D viewer here, so I can go ahead and see what I mean inside of with my 3D. Okay, in this particular case, this viewer is a plugin-less viewer. What does that mean? It means I could basically have this viewer on any web-enabled device, on my tablet, on my smartphone. Heck, I, in the past, have done a demonstration where I did this on my refrigerator, because my refrigerator has a screen on it that I could connect to the internet on. And why did I do that? Because I could. Okay, so within the platform, we also have a way to distribute tasks amongst people. So here are the different tasks that I currently have going on Right now I have a couple tasks that are in a ready state. So this is a way that we can start giving information back and forth to people as far as here is the next thing you have to do. So instead of me waiting to be told on something I have to do, it's a part of my workflow. Okay. These tasks can be linked to, say, Outlook, for example. So if somebody lives inside of Outlook, they would have the capability and the ability to see them there as well. But it just would be it's a little bit of a paradigm shift that, hey, this is my new workflow is maybe to start in this web browser every day. Okay. Excuse me. So if we come back, and again, these are my dashboards that I have set up for me. So actually I have collaborative tasks in a couple different panes, just in case I really want to be paying attention. We also have the ability for working with, so in my case, I have like change actions that are out there. So if there's data that has to go through for change, and it has to be followed and flowed through, I have all the changes that I'm a part of at my fingertips here as well, right from the web browser. Some of the viewing capability that we have, again, we're using our plugin list browsers. So this is just some 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA data. And so we can go ahead, and if we just expand this out, the engineer or whoever can get a sense of what data they have. We also have tools from these viewers to be able to do sectioning, measuring. Okay, so, and again, all this being done without having the native CAD application. And I think because I'm recording at the same time, it's locking up on me a little bit. So, come on, turn off. Thank you. Okay, so one of the things that we can do from our web browser is we have the ability to search for data. So the idea behind the platform, whether we're in the web browser or in the rich client of 3DEXPERIENCE, it's all going to look the same. So you've seen it in the presentation, this compass that was on. So this is the 3DEXPERIENCE compass. This is how I interact with the platform. And so these are all the apps that I have access to per the licenses that I've been granted. And so as I come through, I have my 3D type apps, and so these pertain mainly to 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA. But you also see I have a CATIA V5 one here. I also have a SolidWorks one here. Basically, it's the idea that I want to be able to potentially use this data with CATIA V5 or with SolidWorks, or in this case, 3DEXPERIENCE. Okay, then I can set up some favorite apps. So these are things that I use quite a bit. So I just have a list of them that I can easily get to at any given time. But if I wanted to find some data, I just have a search bar across the top, and I'm just going to do a partial text search. And so this will come back and it searches the platform for me for anything that had the word boom in it. Now, what's really, in my opinion, cool with this, well, one, we can get a highlight of where it was finding that. So it gives me the highlight of where it found the word boom. But more importantly, and of course I picked one that didn't have it in it, our search technology will actually crawl inside of documents. So if you have a Word document, an Excel document, a PDF document, it will actually, when we index for the search, it will actually go inside of that document, and when you do your search, it would look inside of those documents as well. So here I've got my boom and arm. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to drag that into our tree here. And so what I want you to take note of is, so basically, without a CAD license, I've started to build basically a hybrid structure. So this last structure I brought in is a CATIA V5 object, and the other objects are 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA objects. So that's what is denoted by that little CATIA logo versus the compass. So over here inside of my viewer, now I have both of those objects that are inside of this viewer that, again, one of them happens to be 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA data, and the other one's CATIA v5 data. But I can start doing things with this now. So I can actually build and create a product, or basically a new assembly on the fly. So I can come in and just with a quick drag and drop, I can drag the component and make it be a part of that 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA subassembly or assembly. And so now I basically have a true hybrid assembly. Let's go ahead and take this and marry it to the 3DEXPERIENCE data. Okay, so now inside of this viewer we have the capability. Now I got it close, but the tool recognizes we're not actually going to make an actual mate between them. Come on, come back. But I do have the ability that we can recognize cylinders and edges and things of that nature. So I can go through and if we just say we're going to grab that and snaps it on. Okay. So the idea here is I can quickly start building out an assembly of how I want to work with it, but quickly before actually generating any type of real constraint or a mate between there. So it's allowing me to work in this hybrid type world, in this case, between the CATIA v5 and the 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA data. If I had a SolidWorks model, I could do the exact same thing. And coming very shortly, we'll be able to do the same thing with NX and Creo as well. Okay. So what I was trying to stall for was I took, so while this assembly was here, I actually said that, hey, I wanted to use the assembly design app of the Rich client. And so basically, at this point, I'm launching the Rich client of 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA to have this assembly in here. And apparently I didn't stall long enough. So let's go ahead. We'll give this a second to finish opening. Yeah, I know I'm talking a mile a minute, but are there any questions so far while this is finishing opening?
About this 3D viewer
Mm-hmm.
thing, do you think we're able to see the tree structure of that?
Yeah. So this right here is the same tree structure
As in CATIA.
Yes. So these are just the subassemblies. So if I go ahead and expand these out, you can expand out to the lowest level, the part level.
So parameters.
So parameters I can't get to, no. So I'm just going to see the object level.
Okay.
Yeah. So to get to the parameters or the actual geometry. So here it is in the Rich client. Let me see, which one was that? What did I pick on? The upper body counterweight. So if I did the same thing, so I said upper body counterweight maintenance. Now here, because I'm in the Rich client application, now here I can get to the parameters, but I'm in the Rich client. So the idea behind the web viewer of it is you're not changing your native CAD, but we're granting you access to do a preliminary study with it and to view that data. So in the same instance here, the whole arm here is all the V5 data. If there was a modification that have to be made here, I do not make the modification inside of 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA. I go back to CATIA V5.
That means that's CGR or something?
There is a CGR component to it, but I do have the ability to actually build a constraint in the Rich client of 3DEXPERIENCE. So I was just kind of before just kind of snapping these components together. Now that I'm in the Rich client, it does have a BREP mapping of it, and I could actually build a constraint here. but I use Rich Client 3D Experience as the master to drive that.
Does that mean when data size gets bigger, it's the more difficult it gets to pull up the data or something or viewing?
Well, depending. So our viewing technology is actually. And so did you have him ask that question? Because you wanted to see the Star Destroyer, didn't you? So our viewing technology is actually pretty strong. So from the ability of, so what I'm going to pull up here is, and the question always becomes, is what constitutes a large assembly? So this assembly is, let me back up. What I mean is it count of objects, count of triangles, model size, what is a large assembly? So this assembly that I'm going to pull up is close to 20,000 objects. And then the first thing you're going to see, it's not going to look great, because part of the first part of the technology, when we do, we call I call it the navigation layer. So yes, I've done a search, and I've pulled it through, and what I'm afraid of is, because I am recording, so this is usually a little bit faster. It's only going to show me objects that are of a certain size, and then I can start breaking that tree down. More to that. More to the point is, even here at the level of this assembly. So even if I just get out of this for a second, we can start using different tools for doing volumetric searching. So if I just say do a search for a bucket, and I want the cylinder. Oops, do I want that?
Like it's cat part or cat product or something that is actually pulling up.
Yeah. So I can come in here and I can say, what are the related objects for this? And because it's on the platform, it knows where the geometry is living from. And so from this example, actually, let's go to product. Let me go to the actual product structure relationship instead. So I can see that I have the actual cylinder in then the actual geometry that makes it up. It's a child of the boom and arm and the excavator, and apparently I had another assembly there called something. So then we can actually come through and say, if I go from this to the excavator, what makes that up? So I have these components. And then from inside of here, we can say, well, let's do a volume query of this. So based on the geometry that's here, I'm just going to make this box be a little bit bigger. And so what I'm saying is, anything that's touching this box, go select that geometry. Okay, and because I moved the box way out of position, but let's see what else we can gather from this. Come on. So the idea is, I don't have to always open up all the geometry, because I have these type tools. Come on. That are gonna go out and find other geometry without me having to open it. And then at this level, so if I select that and close it, I can actually say, well, let's take that to, in this case, I know this is CATIA V5 data. I can say, let's just take that CATIA V5. Okay. So if I go back to 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA, so this is the assembly that I was talking about. So this is the 20,000 objects that live inside of here. From a size standpoint, from stem to stern, this is a little over 7 feet. So while it may not be huge, there's a large part count in here too.